Back like we never left, and today, guys, is B.D.A, of course, but we're here to talk about One Piece, and in particular, Whole Cake Island, dog. Alright, so I didn't get a chance to do a review of the last chapter just because of everything that was going on and how busy I was, but I plan on doing a discussion. But before I do that, I wanted to respond to Joyboy. Now, Joyboy posted a video saying, "Is Whole Cake Island trash?" And I watched the video twice, actually, just to understand exactly where Joyboy was coming from, because I have been hearing a lot of it. And, you know, in the streams that I do on B.D.A, that's the other channel that I have, it was a lot of that. And people really hate what's been happening with Whole Cake Island. People specifically mention the convenience of this arc, and people are totally forgetting about the convenience that's happened in other arcs. For instance, in Dressrosa, with Law and Fujitora conveniently sitting out of the fight and leaving everything up to the Straw Hats, people don't think it was convenient, but it was actual plot. But those two intertwine much more than usual, so how can you dismiss it that way? We also have to factor in the fight with Law and Luffy and Doflamingo, where Luffy ran out of time and they still managed to beat Doflamingo due to help from Viola, from the townspeople. I mean, even the fact of the birdcage not getting cut, that's another convenience for the plot to hold up. But regardless, we're talking about Whole Cake right now and the convenience in Whole Cake. Granted, I do see some of the convenience to be a bit more outlandish or a bit more noticeable than the past, where things were not as noticeable, or maybe we just weren't paying as much attention. And I'm leaning towards that, because when you take a step back and you evaluate Whole Cake for what it is, I don't think it's nearly as bad as people are clamoring about. So in Joyboy's video, he talks about Whole Cake and the convenience in Whole Cake, and how it's always been there, and how this is what One Piece is. He talks about how with Big Mom's family, that the only reason why Big Mom's family is looking inept, because that's the only reason for Oda to justify the Straw Hats getting away. He specifically mentions Opera, and Opera not mentioning to Big Mom the Straw Hats getting away, and that was basically the first domino to fall. This went along well with the plot and how Big Mom had been set up, because Big Mom, in essence, she's ruling by fear, and all of her kids, they are scared of her. Now, with everything in Joyboy's video, that was just a part of it, and a part of what he said, I agree 100%. Now, I do have some things that I don't agree with. I will address that later in the video, but for the most part, I agree 100%. Whole Cake Island is not a completed arc, but people are still judging the arc as if it is completed, and as if it is the worst arc to date, which it isn't. Yes, some things have happened in the arc where you've questioned, you know, how realistic is this in terms of realism, I guess, but not in terms of One Piece. Nami controlling the homies and controlling thunderclouds is not far-fetched, especially when it was foreshadowed earlier in the arc. This was mentioned by my boy Sean Frost on Twitter. I was actually looking for this panel and he showed it to me, and he tweeted it on Twitter. I was like, okay, this is exactly the panel I was looking for, where Nami even mentions that she can control Big Mom's clouds. But I guess people did not expect Nami to control the cloud, which is Zeus. We can further justify Zeus being manipulated, because I keep saying control, but she's not directly controlling Zeus, she's manipulating Zeus, and Nami has been shown to be a weather master in the past, so using Zeus to attack Big Mom, is that really that far-fetched? So before, we saw that Prometheus was Big Mom's first homie that she created, and was, you know, essentially how Prometheus has been acting. Prometheus is the older sibling, if you may. So now at this point, Zeus is the younger sibling. Zeus actually wears a cap, so Zeus is more childlike, even more so than Prometheus. So at that point, what does this tell you? Out of the two, Zeus is more likely to be manipulated, because Zeus is more so like Big Mom. Yes, they are Big Mom's soul, but at the end of the day, they are separate entities created by Big Mom. An analogy I gave today when I was talking to my boy Stebo, Dustin, and Wallow was that if you are religious, and you know, some of us are religious, if you're not, I understand, you know, that's your preference, but if you are religious and you believe in a god, a deity, or someone above you, you do believe in the fact that you were created by God. You are created in God's will and in God's likeness. and God is always watching over you. But then I ask you the question, then why do you choose to disobey God? Why don't you always follow the ways of God and the things God tells you to say? We are separate entities from God, but in essence, we are God in a way. So looking at it that way, how is Zeus and Big Mom much different? I mean, the only thing is that Big Mom is always visible and the threat is very real for Big Mom. I mean, for God it's the same way, but one can say you don't see him all the time, blah, blah, blah. But let's not deviate. And the fact that we don't listen all the time to someone who's considered our creator and, where we were given the soul from this man or this God. Why are we so quick to criticize Zeus when we are essentially doing the same thing? Yes, I am taking it to a completely separate place, and this is totally separate from One Piece and what the story is, but I'm trying to create an analogy to bridge the gap of understanding, because I really don't think we're understanding what the arc is. The arc isn't an arc to take down a Yonko. The purpose of this arc was to rescue Sanji, and we are doing that. We have done that, and we cannot really think there is no real other way for the Straw Hats to get away than for the Big Mom Pirates to look silly. But some of this is based on our expectations as well. I am guilty based on the hype that was placed on this arc from the editor saying this is the year of Sanji. Like Joyboy mentioned, if that wasn't mentioned, would you have the same expectations? I don't think so, because based on that, I expected great things from Sanji. And the great things that I expected revolved mostly around fighting. But when we look at Sanji's character, that is not who Sanji is. Yes, Sanji is definitely a fighter, but for the most part, Sanji is a cook. He's a chef. He's a chivalrous dude. He is a gentleman. If Zoro was in this place, Zoro's character is to be the badass, but Zoro would have shown more in fights. But at this point, we are comparing Zoro and Sanji when they're totally separate characters, and Oda has been setting them up in a different way. Based on what we know about Oda, we know that Oda favors character development over actual fights. He's said this, that for the most part, he's going to focus more on character development and characters more than actual fights. And I mean, that's just how Oda is going to go about his story. So for Sanji, who, yes, he is a fighter, and that's secondary to his goal, because his primary goal on the ship is to cook. Zoro's primary goal on the ship is to be a badass, and that's where we kind of blurred the two. And because those guys have been shown to be equals in some way, that's how we judge them based on character, which should not be the case. But further from that, Sanji has had great moments in the arc, from pudding to dodging Katakuri's jelly bean, but that again goes back to fights. I mean, his whole family and everything that was revealed in his backstory, Sanji has owned that. He has had retribution as far as his family is concerned. He shit all over Judge, and at this point, Sanji has lived up to his character as far as what Oda has set it up to be. Sanji's not going to be the badass that Zoro is. We just have to get rid of that. Personally, I am guilty of this as well, because I expect that, because I love Sanji, and I expect the same badassery, I'm making up this word here, from Zoro that we get. I want it from Sanji, just to appeal to the fandom. I believe at this point, unless Sanji does the same things that Zoro does, he's not going to appeal as much to the fandom, and Sanji isn't that. So in a way, Sanji is in a lose-lose situation. But back to Whole Cake being a trash arc, we can also focus on Big Mom and everything that's revolved around Big Mom and what she has been doing. I think the fact that this is a Yonko and the Yonko's territory, we expected more of a fear factor and more danger in what's been happening. I believe the Straw Hat's in a lot of danger right now, but because of everything that's been happening, it hasn't been showcased that way. And also, the breaks have kind of stagnated everything that's been happening. So we really think everything has been moving along slowly, but the fact is we just had break after break within the arc. Whole Cake has had great pacing, I think, compared to previous arcs such as Dressrosa that we complained so much about, but now we complain about the same things in Whole Cake, which really isn't the case. Again, back to Big Mom's portrayal, we had high expectations for everything that she's been doing, but we were comparing her to Whitebeard. Big Mom has a separate character, and she is a different character from Whitebeard, and how she was portrayed in her backstory to be pretty much autistic in everything she's done, and we've seen that as she's grown. The story has been set up for Big Mom where she has been manipulated by Strusen, and she has never really grown up. She is still this childlike character that really thinks that her motives and her dreams should be the same for others when this really isn't the case. The Big Mom's deficiencies and everything she lacks is made up by these homies that she's created around her, such as Napoleon, Zeus, and Prometheus. We see this with Big Mom's agility and her maneuverability. She cannot maneuver as much as she wants because Zeus was created specifically for that purpose, and we can say Prometheus was created to give her more firepower, literally, and then Napoleon was created for intelligence sake. And with these three combined creates what is Big Mom and what is the force that is Big Mom the Yonko. Of course her family is involved with that, but that is part of her. Yes, with her fragile mind and the frailties in her character, that opens it up for her to be manipulated, but that is also part of what makes Big Mom Big Mom. We cannot have all these Yonko be the same character because then that would be boring and redundant. Then we get into a situation where it's just Dragon Ball where we have the same badass characters where they're just stronger like Joyboy did allude to. So in a way, I do agree with Joyboy's video 100% that people are really going too far with the whole Cake criticism because they're being hypocrites because they enjoy arcs that have the same type of plot convenience that Whole Cake has. Yes, I do have my qualms with how everything has been portrayed. I think that has subsided after the whole assassination attempt failed because I felt like everything was going way too smoothly, and after that things have just been going crazy. Yes, things could have been taken out where the Straw Hats could have gotten away already, where we didn't have to go through this whole elaborate route for them to get away, but the arc is not over yet and we're not sure exactly what Oda is trying to set up. I mean, we look at what Brook and Chopper, they're confronting Perospero right now, and Perospero is going to let him walk away. What does this speak to? We're not sure if like the characters on Big Mom's crew, they have all these different personalities, and Oda right now is trying to flesh them all out, and we're not giving it the time to do so. Yes, we expect badass things, and I'm guilty of this as well, but then when I look at the characters and I look at the situations, this is the only way where I see it makes sense. Let's go back to Cracker not even being a part of the arc for the most part after his fight, because it would not make sense for Cracker, who controls soldiers that are super strong, for the Straw Hats to be able to move around like they were with Cracker's soldiers patrolling everywhere, because I believe that was one of the roles of Cracker. So with all this, yes, you guys need to relax on Whole Cake and just enjoy Whole Cake. Wait until the arc is finished, then we can criticize it for what it is. But to the parts where I disagree with Joyboy is the parts of people wanting fights, and with Sanji's character where people want the badass moments. Yes, I did say earlier that that's not Sanji's character, but it is still a shonen, and we have to go back to the history of One Piece where we did expect more from this arc. We expected some evolution in the character of Sanji for him to step up in a more badass way. I'm not mad at the people who wanted that because at the end of the day, it's still a shonen, and we expect in some way for Sanji to upstage Zoro, Zoro to upstage Sanji, for them to be on a similar level. People wanting badass moments is not a bad thing. This is part of the lore of One Piece. That's why a lot of One Piece fans got into it after Marineford. And like you said, a lot of people have not been reading One Piece that long week to week. So it is an adjustment, and not seeing the badass, I'm using air quotes here, moments in One Piece as frequently, I can see how people can become frustrated. But at the end of the day, this isn't One Piece, and I feel like that's why we're here to kind of let people know that we have to kind of take a step back and understand like these characters are different, these characters are separate. Again, that's my only qualm with Joyboy's video, because I believe he touched on all the points that I wanted to touch on. I plan on making a video about that because it had reached a fever pitch, guys. It was too far gone where people just went far and beyond in criticizing this arc. So guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this arc. Let me know exactly what you have a problem with. I explained what Big Mom's character is. Again, Big Mom cannot be like all the other Yonko, because this situation, this is exactly what makes her who she is. Her backstory and everything that's been built up to now, this is what makes her who she is. So she's not gonna just do a total 180 to something different if that's not who she is, and this makes the arc unique in a way. And I have taken a while to come to terms with this, but now I have, and I really want to see exactly what you guys have an issue with. Yes, my boy Steve said he wrote a whole essay on exactly what he had an issue with. I haven't read it yet, but I plan to, and I want to see exactly what his issues are with the arc, because I'm really interested, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. What don't you like about the arc? Is it the convenience? Because convenience has been happening in One Piece. It's just at this point, you're just not okay with it, and that's a bit hypocritical. Let me know what you think. I am interested in what you think. I will be in the comments. I will be listening. I will be responding, because I don't know if this is justified. Again, let me know what you think. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. That would be dope. And shout out to Joyboy for laying it all out there, ranting, because I saw him going back and forth with Beck on Twitter about the whole Cake Island. And these two guys, I believe they originated from Ora Jackson. I may be wrong. I mean, that's besides the point. But two theorists that had completely separate views on this arc. I mean, it was interesting to see, but this just goes back to show that, I mean, everybody's different. Everyone is going to interpret the story differently, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing, guys. So let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe for more content like this. That would be dope. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.